Hi, I'm Lori Grunin, Senior Editor with CNET, and this is the Canon EOS 7D. With entirely new autofocus and metering systems, a new high-resolution 8-channel readout sensor coupled with dual Digic 4 image processors, and a new 100% coverage viewfinder, plus 1080p video capture and Canon's first implementation of in-camera wireless flash, the 7D looks like an aggressive attempt to combat Nikon in the $1,700 or so class that's historically been owned by models like the D300 and the successor, the D300S. One of the heavier single-grip digital SLRs available, there are no radical design departures in the 7D, but there are tons of subtle and a few conspicuous interface changes that greatly enhance the fluidity of the camera's operation. Following trends in consumer digital SLR design, the 7D now also has an interactive control panel for changing frequently accessed settings. Though I generally prefer buttons and switches for quick access, the control panel is ultimately easier to use than trying to differentiate between the small buttons on the top of the camera without looking. Unlike the Nikon D300S, which changes modes electronically, Canon retains its mode dial with 3 custom setting slots. The new 100% viewfinder is great and comparable with the D300S. It's big and bright with an optional overlay grid. Canon went from a very few AF options to a gazillion in one model, including some new zone and expanded point options designed specifically to improve tracking autofocus performance. I'm sorry, but for a detailed explanation, you're going to have to read the review. The 7D expands on the video format options available in the 5D Mark II, including a 60 frame per second 1280 by 720 mode. Like the D300S, it offers full aperture, shutter, ISO sensitivity, and white balance controls, as well as picture styles and other image presets, even in video. Keep in mind that with all digital SLR-based video capture, the camera really has some usability issues. While it's fine in a pinch, with some juggling and contorting, unless your subject is such that you can shoot it while you're on a tripod, it really requires a rig that runs a few $1,000s, primarily to enable you to hold it steady while manually focusing and using the other controls. Canon raises a new performance standard bar for this class with the 7D. It's a hair faster overall than the more expensive 5D Mark II, and even gives much higher-end models like the D3S and the EOS 1D Mark IV some competition. For instance, as tested, it sustained a best quality JPEG burst at 7.3 frames per second for essentially an unlimited number of frames. I think it has some of Canon's best autofocus performance to date for the money as well. The zone and expanded point options seem to significantly reduce focus loss when working in AI servo mode. Autofocus in live view and movie capture modes remains slow and clunky, however, and it's still difficult in direct sunlight because of the LCD. Overall, however, I'd say the system is an improvement over its predecessor. The higher resolution sensor necessarily has extremely small pixels, which never bodes well for image quality. But the 7D's noise profile fares well even compared to the lower resolution D300S. However, I'd consider ISO 3200 the highest I'd feel safe shooting in general. At that sensitivity, images are visibly soft and show a lot more noise. As for the video, it looks very good, but I mean not nearly as sharp or saturated as a mid-range Canon HD camcorder. The trade-off here, of course, is interchangeable lenses for a reasonable price. Ultimately, this is a great mid-range DSLR debut for Canon. I'm Lori Grunin, and this is the Canon EOS 7D.